June 27th, 2014. Guys, I've been wanting to get into the Apocrypha. For a while, it's been busy. Been a lot going on, and sometimes you can't jump right into the deeper meat of the Bible. You have to kind of walk it step by step, and a lot of you guys understand what I'm talking about. Now, the Apocrypha was in the Bible for 1,000 years until it no longer went along with this New World doctrine and indoctrination that started back 300 to 400 years ago. And we've seen just recently in the 1800s where more and more books were taken out. And can you imagine that, guys? Taking books out of the Bible. But this on-screen version does not have the preface. I have the book called the Apocrypha. It's translated mine by Edgar J. Goodspeed. Now, the online version here is slightly different, but it's very close. It's very from the Greek, guys. Now, even Rome allowed this into the Bible at first, and then they had a hand in taking it back out, because this new religion you see and come out of Rome now will not go along with the Word of God, so they had to remove it. But what I have in this book, I bought in 1989 from Vintage Publishers. I'm going to read the preface. It's not on screen. But it says, the Apocrypha formed an integral part of the King James Version of 1611, as they had all the preceding versions from the beginning in 1382. But they are seldom printed as part of it any longer, still more seldom as part of the English Revised Version, and were not included in the American revision at all. No, they had to spread these false doctrines. The not be prepared, don't read Revelation. You don't need your spiritual armor. You're not going to be here doctrine. This chapter and the book of Esdras blows it out of the water. That's why they had to hide it, guys. And the reason I'm going to go through it is because I don't want anyone deceived. Now, let's go through this. It's very important. And let me just say this. Chapter 13 is where I'm starting. But I'm going to go back in different videos and cover both books, Esdras 1 and 2. But I want to get your attention with 13 because it's very close to where we're at in prophecy. And a lot of this is revelation. So very important. And in chapter 12 before this, Esdras was asking God, why were the things going on this earth? What was all the persecution about, and the trouble, and why were evil men getting away with evil things when God's people were getting oppressed? And it was a constant argument back and forth. But God loved Esdras, and he put up with that. And he would tell him to do certain things, and he would send an angel and interpret his dreams. And just in chapter 12 before this, an angel had told him to fast for 7 days in the desert alone, and he would give him the answer to this question. And it came to pass after 7 days, I dreamed a dream by night, and lo, there arose a wind from the sea, that it moved all the waves thereof. And I beheld, and lo, that man waxed strong with the thousands of heaven. Where? It wasn't in the pit. It was in heaven. And when he turned his countenance to look, all the things trembled that were seen under him. Satan can't do that. Christ can. And whensoever the voice went out of his mouth, all they burned that heard his voice, like as the earth faileth when it feeleth the fire. And after this I beheld, and lo, there was gathered together a multitude of men out of number from the four winds of the heaven to subdue the man that came out of the sea. Now this, we're talking about Jesus Christ. That two-edged sword, that fire out of his mouth, the earth trembles. And now we're getting into Armageddon. But I beheld, and lo, he had graved himself a great mountain and flew up unto it. Look as he's stepping through in history, guys, when Christ was crucified. But I would have seen the region or place whereout the hill was graven, and I could not. No man could see where Christ went. And after this I beheld, and lo, all that which were gathered together to subdue him were so afraid, and yet they did fight, yet durst fight, which means they went ahead even with fear, because they were being lied to, and something was wrong and they knew it, but they fought anyway. And lo, as he saw the violence of the multitude that came, he neither lifted up his hand, nor held sword, nor any instrument of war, broken without hand. But only I saw that he sent out of his mouth as it had been a blast of fire, and out of his lips a flaming breath, and out of his tongue he cast out sparks and tempest. And they were all mixed together, the blast of fire, the flaming breath, and the great tempest, and fell with violence upon the multitude which was prepared to fight, and burned them up every one, so that upon a sudden of an innumerable multitude nothing was to be perceived, but only dust and smell of smoke. When I saw this, I was afraid. Afterward saw I the same man come down, listen, from the mountain, and call unto him another peaceable multitude. And there came much people unto him, where some were glad, some were sorry, and some of them were bound, and others some brought of them that were offered. What it's saying there in the Good Speed translation, guys, is they brought offerings. Then when I was sick through great fear, and I awaked and said, Thou hast showed thy servant these wonders from the beginning, and hast counted me worthy that thou should receive my prayer. Show me now yet the interpretation of this dream. For as I conceive in my understanding, woe unto them that shall be left in those days, and much more woe unto them that are not left behind. You wonder where the term left behind in the fictional books and movies came from? By the dark-eyed writers. Let me read that again. For as I conceive in mine understanding, woe unto them that shall be left in those days, and much more woe unto them that are not left behind. Guys, the tribulation is not going to be that nice. But what's he saying? But much more woe unto them that are not left behind. They didn't want this information in the New Bible. It wouldn't go along with a false doctrine. Preachers, pay attention. For they that were left were in heaviness. Now understand I the things that are laid up in the latter days, which shall happen unto them and to those that are left behind. Let's pay attention. Therefore are they come into great perils and many necessities, like as the dreams declare. Yet it is easier for him that is in danger to come into these things than to pass away as a cloud out of the world, and not to see these things that happen in the last days. And he answered unto me and said, The interpretation of the vision shall I show thee, and I will open up unto thee the thing that thou hast required. Whereas thou hast spoken of them that are left behind, this is the interpretation. He that shall endure the peril in that time hath kept himself. They that be fallen into danger are such as have works and faith toward the Almighty. Are you listening? Preachers, are you listening to what you're telling your flock? Now this therefore, that they which be left behind are more blessed than they that be dead. Those first one takens are they're dead, they're asleep. This is the meaning of the vision. Whereas thou sawest a man coming up from the midst of the sea, the same as whom God the highest hath kept a great season, which by his own self shall deliver his creature, and he shall order them that are left behind. God will rule the ones left. Remember, the ones that are dead, they sleep for the 1,000-year millennium, and then are judged. And whereas thou sawest that out of his mouth there came a blast of wind and fire and storm, and that he held neither sword nor any instrument of war, but that the rushing in of him destroyed the whole multitude that came to subdue him, this is the interpretation. The two-edged sword is all he needed. He didn't need anything, remember? Broken without hand. Behold, the days come when the Most High will begin to deliver them that are upon the earth. And he shall come to the astonishment of them that dwell on the earth. And one shall undertake to fight against another. This is where we're at. Listen. One city against another, one place against another, one people against another, and one realm against another. And the time shall be when these things shall come to pass, and the signs shall happen which I showed thee before, and then shall my Son be declared, whom thou sawest as a man ascending. And when all the people hear his voice, every man shall in their own land leave the battle. They have one against the other. They stop this fighting around the world. Why? And an innumerable multitude shall be gathered together, as thou sawest them, willing to come and to overcome him by fighting. Guys, what he's saying here is, for some reason, something happens. They know Jesus is coming. These New World Order preachers are gathering them together for a battle. Stop your fighting amongst yourselves. We have a much greater enemy coming, they're telling. But he shall stand upon the top of the Mount Sion, and Sion shall come, and shall be showed to all men, being prepared and builded, like as thou sawest the hill graven without hands. And Sion shall come. What does that say, guys? When the city of God comes down, when the temple comes down. And what is the size of that temple? If you read it in furlongs, it's about 14,000 square miles. 14,000, it's a cube bigger than earth. And this my Son shall rebuke the wicked inventions of those nations, which for their wicked life are fallen into the tempest, and shall lay before them their evil thoughts, and the torments wherewith they shall begin to be tormented, which are unlike unto a flame. And he shall destroy them without labor by the law which is like unto me. The two-edged sword, that torment, guys, that of their evil thoughts turned inside, where they see it perfectly in a mirror. They're tormented. Those are the 10 tribes which were carried away prisoners out of their own land in the time of Hosea the king, whom Salmanasar the king of Assyria led away captive. And he carried them over the waters, and so came them to another land. But they took this counsel among themselves, that they would leave the multitude of the heathen, and go forth into a further country, where never mankind dwelt. And guys, we saw that across Europe and into the U.S. eventually, that they might keep their statutes, which they never kept in their own land. And they entered into the Euphrates by the narrow places of the river. They crossed it in narrow places as they went north. For the Most High then showed signs for them, and held still the flood, till they passed over. For through that country there was a great way to go, namely of a year and a half, and the same region is called Arsareth. Then dwelt they there until the latter time. Now here we go. And now when they shall begin to come, the high shall stay the springs of the stream again. What's he talking about? Blocking the Euphrates, that they may go through. Therefore sawest thou the multitude with peace. But those that be left behind of that people are they that are found within my borders. You understand? His barn, his temple. Now when he destroyed the multitude of the nations that are gathered together, he shall defend his people that remain. And then shall he show them great wonders. Thank the Lord for these books coming back in these end days, guys. You pastors and brothers out there and reverends, read these books they took out, and look at yourself in the mirror, and look at what you're going to be tormented with when these lies are exposed. Some I know are out of not being taught the truth, and then thinking you're a teacher, still feeding the milk. But you're about to get a lot of souls in trouble. And then shall he show them great wonders. Then said I, O Lord, thou that bearest rule, show me this. Wherefore have I seen the man coming up from the midst of the sea? And he said unto me, Like as thou canst neither seek out nor know the things that are in the deep of the sea, even so can no man upon earth see my Son, or those that be with him, but in that day time, in the end time. This is the interpretation of the dream which thou sawest, and whereby thou only art here lightened. He was the only one at that time. For thou hast forsaken thine own way, and applied thy diligence unto my law, and sought it. Guys, Esdras has forgotten the world. All he does is seek the wisdom of the Lord and the truth. And why is he doing it? It goes on in Esdras, and we'll cover that part. But he's saying, because I'm so concerned about what I see happening to my brothers and sisters that are walking in the light, the persecution they're going through. That's why I'm asking the questions. And that's why God puts up with this constant nagging, in a way. If you read the entire book, Esther stays on him. Lord, let me know. Tell me what's going on. I want to know. And just worries him until he gets it. But he walks and he does exactly what God tells him. And then God shows him these things. He says, For thine hast forsaken thine own way, and applied thy diligence unto my law, and sought it. Thy life hast thou ordered in wisdom, and hast called understanding thy mother. And therefore have I showed thee the treasures of the highest. After other 3 days I will speak other things unto thee, and declare unto thee mighty and wondrous things. Then went I forth into the field, giving praise and thanks greatly unto the Most High, because of his wonders which he did in time. Think about it, guys. Just the word allows you to go forth and give praise and thanks greatly to the Most High. Just the truth in these days. And because he governeth the same, and such things as fall in their season, and there I set 3 days. He's saying, God, it's your plan. This is your season, your timing. Thank you for letting me see this much. Thank him now, my friends, if this word has opened your eyes and made you look at what you're being taught. If you can see it, then go forth into the field. That's what Esdras did in 57. Go now into this field and be working, giving praise and thanks, and teaching your brothers and sisters the truth. Remember those that are left behind? They are found within his borders. Amen.